Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us this morning. I've just hit the go live button round about bang on 11, so that seems like a good a time as any to start. And I can see the numbers kind of filtering through quite rapidly, so that's brilliant. So let's get underway. Welcome to the first in a new series of webinars brought to you by Safety and Security Digital. This is a brand new digital offering that's coming to you from the organisers of the hugely successful Safety and Security event. And today's webinar is in partnership with Cardinus Risk Management. So a big thank you to them in advance. We're really thrilled that you could all be joining us this morning. I think we've had over just under 1,900 registrations, which is both an incredible testament to the support of our industry, but also for me, a very overwhelming number of people to be speaking to. So we'll do our best to get through this. I'll do a very quick introduction of myself and this new series, as I know we're all very keen to get stuck into today's webinar and to hear from our expert guests. So my name is Mark Tilley. I'm the new content and community manager for the Safety and Security series. And going forward, this means that you can expect a brand new suite of digital content around the 5 elements of Safety and Security series, which of course incorporates security, fire safety, workplace, health and safety, and our brand new offering for 2026, which is Pro Integration Future Europe. And starting with today's webinar, you can look forward to loads more content over the coming year across all the previously mentioned sectors. So this is going to include more webinars, a news and features website, a monthly email newsletter, and coming soon, a new podcast channel. So we've got a really exciting couple of months ahead. It's very much kind of watch this space. So before we get into today's webinar as well, just a little bit of housekeeping. We really want these events to be as interactive as possible, and we want you, the audience, to get as much out of it as you possibly can. So be as engaged as possible. Jump in on some questions if you can. You'll see a little icon on the right-hand side with a little question mark. And if you're able to kind of put some questions in there, the team behind the scenes will be kind of filtering these and putting some forward that we can jump into at the end of today's webinar. Which we've carved out time to do. And if you have any technical problems, any sound or kind of issues like that, feel free to pop something in the chat and a member of our team will try and assist with that for you there as well. So on to today's event. And it's a subject that I think many of us either have been or should start to follow very, very closely. Martyn's Law is officially the Terrorism Protection of Premises Act 2025. It's a new piece of legislation in the UK that mandates that certain public premises and events consider and implement measures to reduce their vulnerability to terrorist attacks. Named after Martyn Hett, a victim of the Manchester Arena bombing 8 years ago, the law places a duty on those in control of premises or events to consider the risk of terrorism and to take appropriate steps to mitigate that risk. So we're going to be hearing from 2 experts today on the subject, and later on we'll be hearing from Andrew Sanderson, who is a health and safety lawyer with extensive knowledge of this legislation, who's going to be giving us a practical explanation of what the law means for the industry. But before that, we're going to take a look at the background of this story and how this legislation came to be, and we're going to be hearing from someone who I'm sure we can all agree is an incredibly inspiring individual. So in the years that followed that tragic day in 2017, Martyn's mother, Figen Murray, has campaigned tirelessly to push through this legislation, working with co-campaigners and lobbying government officials as part of her mission to promote positive change in Martyn's name. What began in early 2019 as an online petition has gathered over 23,000 signatures, soon became an unstoppable force, with Figen completing a master's degree in counter-terrorism, being awarded an honorary doctorate from Salford University in 2022, being made a visiting fellow at the Institute of Strategic Risk Management, and being awarded an OBE in the 2022 New Year's Honours List. The crescendo of all of this really, really impressive work came when the bill received royal assent on Thursday, the 3rd of April, 2025, meaning the legislation is now officially law in the UK. And I'm able to quote directly from Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, when he said, "I would like to think I would have had the wherewithal to do what Figen has done. I'm not sure in my heart of hearts I'd be able to pick myself up as she has done after the most awful of circumstances, to then campaign and to bring that change on behalf of other people, to make sure they never go through what she has been through and what her family has been through." So I think we can unanimously agree what an impressive individual Figen is, and we are incredibly fortunate to be joined by her this morning. Figen, good morning, welcome. Firstly, a huge thank you for agreeing to be a part of this webinar. I think I speak for everyone across the industry when I say a massive thank you for your tireless efforts to make life safer for people in this country. So thank you. We're going to jump straight into it. The first question I want to kind of ask you is, if you can talk us through that day on the 3rd of April, you're at 10 Downing Street. Without wanting to kind of oversimplify it, it must have been a really momentous occasion for you.
It was totally a massive moment, obviously, quite an emotional moment. The people around us, from, obviously my husband was there, the immediate campaign team was with me, and so were people from the Home Office who've worked so much. And there have been a few tears. I've managed not to cry, but the people around me were quite emotional, and quite rightly so, because it was, after all those years and months, it was a big, big moment, and the moment we all waited for, obviously.
Yeah, I'm sure. If you could, there's probably not one single one, but if you could point to the most meaningful moment for you in the whole journey, or moments that you had across that whole journey.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm a total introvert and I'm really, really shy. And my very, very first speaking engagement was in front of 400 people, police officers mainly, at Farnborough at the big conference there. And
Mm,
really surreal moment. And I thought at the time, well, why would people be even interested in listening to me? And I noticed that people were starting to cry. Lots of men were openly crying. And I literally couldn't understand why, and that anybody would even want to hear what I have to say. That was a weird one. And then the first meeting at the Home Office, when I met the first out of 8 security ministers, was also a bit of a surreal moment, thinking, am I really doing this? Is this really happening? Um, then, of course, forward a few years, and the 7th of May last year, when we started the walk from the exact spot at the arena where
mm.
Martyn Hett, that was a big moment. It felt really important that I start from there, and actually walking 16 days without a day off and reaching number 10 actually on the 7th anniversary was a big moment. And then on the same day, obviously meeting with Rishi Sunak, James Cleverly, and then half an hour later with Sir Keir Starmer, and a few hours later with Yvette Cooper. They were all sort of pivotal moments, really key moments that I'll always remember.
Yeah, yeah, an incredible journey, I'm sure. On to maybe a little bit more of a technical question. What do you think are the key elements of this legislation that you think are going to make the biggest difference in public safety?
I think, first of all, it's going to have to be a mind shift change. Human beings don't do change very easily. We've seen that with the when the smoking ban came in, when the seatbelt rules came in. People don't sort of want to change overnight. They don't see the point. But once the general public get their head round it, this will be really good. And what will be the most important things that will make the biggest difference is that venues, big and small, will have a plan, which a lot of venues don't have, because there's still unfortunately the thought of, this won't happen to me, not at my venue. We're not big enough, we're not important enough. We can't possibly be a target, there are better targets. And that mindset is really something that the legislation will sort of reduce to a minimum, because most people, venues 200 and above, will have to comply with the legislation. And I think having a plan is absolutely crucial. Staff knowing what to do in case of an attack is really crucial. And I mean, the smaller venues obviously knowing how to lock down, how to evacuate, and communicate to authorities. Once that is in place, things will feel so much safer. And obviously, I'm not expecting things to just click into place from day one. First of all, we have a 2-year implementation period. And obviously, that is the time when people should really get their act together, plan, train, look at their premises, look at what can be done and what they've already got that can be used. They can put measures in place. But the security sector as a whole, which I've got to know very well over the last few years, there's so many different ways of, the way the industry has improved and stepped up. A lot of venues are already kind of doing Martyn's Law in a fashion as best as they can. And the security sector, as I said, is improving day in, day out. It's always getting better. The standard of training will improve because there'll be more standardization of training. We will have the regulator, and that'll have an impact on the training standards as well. But I think once the legislation is out there and the public are informed, this is the legislation made for the general public, and they're the most important people who need to know about this legislation, yet there isn't a public awareness campaign yet for people out there on the street. So once the general public are informed after the implementation period is over, I think what will happen is that the public will drive security quality up by being more vocal and saying, why did you not check that bag? Why did you let this person in with a rucksack? And people will be more demanding, and that will drive security up because they'll moan on the internet and nobody wants a bad review, do they? So I think
Absolutely.
it'll improve. It'll take time. This isn't going to be the magic answer in the next 12 months.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's a general mindset issue, isn't it? So, like you say, the more people are aware of these things and vocal about it, the better it's going to be. How do you think this legislation balances public safety with the practicalities faced by businesses and venues?
Right. So there's been teething problems. There's been, in fact, right from the word go, when I very first started the legislation on my own, before Brendan Cox and Nick Aldworth came on board, it was just an online petition. And my goodness, I got so criticized. I was criticized and accused of, you will make people bankrupt, you will shut businesses down. And that was then perpetuated and massively increased with the Home Affairs Select Committee, the scrutiny period we had. And in that committee, it was mentioned or pointed out, I was sort of accused of, you're going to rip the heart out of every rural community because this legislation will shut down village halls because no volunteer will want to do all this. And I'm thinking, well, actually, volunteers have to do fire safety and health and safety anyway. So this is just a small add-on. People just need to know where the exits are, where there may be a good place to hide, how to ring the police or the authorities, and how to how to lock down. So that isn't rocket science. It's not hard to do. Obviously, for bigger venues, there's going to be more requests required. Big venues have to do more. But then again, the cost element I addressed in my dissertation when I did my master's, and I suggested that there is a big venue should raise a 50p security levy that they need to ring fence for and put back into security. And if you take the example of Manchester Arena, if they ran half capacity at 10,000 people every night for 3 nights a week, 50 weeks of the year, that would actually generate half capacity. It would generate £750,000 in 1 year as a security expenditure. So if that can be ploughed back in to that venue for security costs, then that would pay for staff, training, equipment. It would pay for all sorts of stuff. So, so the cost element shouldn't come into that. So I think the industry has been a bit misled, and there's been a bit of scaremongering. The government did a cost analysis. I'm a bit puzzled about that because really we are not asking small businesses to do very much. It's either no cost or extremely low cost. Check the back doors, check the back lights or whatever, add a ring camera if need be. But there are easy ways of putting Martyn's Law in place. with either, as I said, no cost or low cost for small businesses. And the bigger venues, they can create that extra income or money to pay for it, and so they should really.
Yeah, yeah. It all seems like a bit of a no-brainer, doesn't it? When you put it in those terms.
Yes.
Um, so how do you think Martyn's Law is going to help shape sort of future counter-terrorism legislation, both in the UK and possibly abroad? Because I know we have we have got a bit of an international audience today as well, so there might be some people from overseas who are interested in this.